AbbVie continues to remain a fan favorite among dividend investors, not only for their growing streams of increased payments to shareholders over the years, but also for the chances at getting fantastic capital appreciation. This is truly a rare breed, one of those companies that can offer high dividend yields, but can also grow their business. Today we're going to see if buying into AbbVie is a good idea, given some of the scares of its best-selling drugs' patent protections expiring soon. Let's take a look at what AbbVie even does and how they make their money. AbbVie is a biopharmaceutical company that researches and develops, manufactures, commercializes, sells medicine, and therapies. It spun off from the medical devices company Abbott Laboratories in 2013, and they are both headquartered in Illinois. Although they have a similar name, AbbVie is not related to the Swedish pop group ABBA, who brought us Dancing Queen, among other musical hits. AbbVie treats nearly 57 million people every year across 60 different health conditions. According to one of their reports, nearly 1.7 billion people on this planet have the potential to be treated by one of AbbVie's products, including 300 million people here in the US. Your guess is as good as mine on how they got this confidential information. They currently have 48,000 employees in 70 plus countries, and last year they spent nearly $6 billion in research and development for new medicines. It's important to spend money to be able to study and find solutions to tough diseases like Alzheimer's, cancer, Crohn's disease, glaucoma, MS, Parkinson's, arthritis, among many others. Its best-selling drug is called Humira, which is used to treat Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, among many other uses. This cash cow of a medicine brought in nearly $20 billion in sales in 2020, $16 billion in the US alone. However, that dominance might be short-lived, as AbbVie's exclusive rights to produce the drug end in the middle of 2023, when biosimilars can start popping up. They've already actually lost this protection in Europe, and that forced them to cut their prices by 80% in that geographical location. Now, biosimilars are essentially identical copies of an already existing drug that does the same effects just under a different name once the patent protection has already expired. This will be a huge blow to AbbVie, as Humira at one point represented nearly 43% of their total revenues. Humira was actually the world's best-selling pharmaceutical product prior to C19. But that doesn't mean the good folks at AbbVie aren't working hard at making other pharmaceutical medicines. They actually acquired the makers of Botox a few years back for a boatload of money, and that helped AbbVie add an extra $2 billion in sales to their arsenal. AbbVie also has dozens of other drugs in their pipeline. Just look at all these different potential projects that may eventually one day be used as medicine and the different stages that they are in. And you can see the color coordination for which part of the body that they help treat. AbbVie has two medicines that combined for $1 billion for the first time this past quarter in Skyrizi and Rinvoq. But according to management, these two could be producing over $15 billion in sales throughout this decade and next. AbbVie is also doing a partnership with REGENXBIO to develop a new gene therapy wet age-related macular denigration worth potentially $2 billion. This is just proof that AbbVie is doing a lot more to become a very diversified company, as Humira now represents just 36% of their revenues, still a huge number, but down from what it was just a year ago at around 50%. I personally think AbbVie will continue to develop more drugs and therapies throughout the coming years to help offset Humira's loss. They will also be able to make acquisitions like they did with Allergan and partnerships that will continue to help this healthcare giant. Another important note here, guys, is that the effects of Humira's patent expiring is already priced into the stock. It's not like in mid-2023, the stock will just fall off a cliff as if this was an unforeseen event. It's already priced into what you're paying for the stock today. It's not going to suddenly get cheaper when the patent expires. But you didn't click on this video to hear my amazing pronunciation on pharmaceutical drugs, but to hear about AbbVie's amazing dividends. AbbVie currently trades for just under a 5% dividend yield. That is well above the healthcare average's yield of 1.63%. In 2016, they paid $3.7 billion in dividends, and by 2020, that number had increased to $7.7 billion. It's grown its dividend every year they've been a public company, and since they technically were Abbott Labs, most investors and sites would consider them a continuation of Abbott Labs' dividend streak, which is now at 49 years. So this means that AbbVie is about to become a dividend king, which is 50 straight years of paying increased dividend payments. This just shows the resiliency of this company being able to reward its shareholders despite whatever's going on in this world and the market conditions, and they've been able to do this for decades. People are always going to need medicine, regardless if the economy is doing great or bad. AbbVie's 5-year dividend growth rate is at an amazing 18%. Typically, I like to see companies raise their dividend around 7 to 10% every year. That ensures that they are investing back into the actual company, but they're also making us slightly richer every quarter. An 18% growth rate, I feel like to me that's saying that we have so much extra cash, rather than use it toward developing more products, we'll just give it out to shareholders. That's not always the smartest solution. Though it's not necessarily a bad problem to have either. When we look at their cash flow statement, they're bringing in nearly $17 billion in free cash flow, and they pay out just $8 billion in dividends. Currently, they have a very healthy, around a 50% payout ratio. They should be able to continue paying dividends even after their cash cow product, Humira, cash flows stop coming in hot, as well as with all their new products in development. As I mentioned earlier, AbbVie really does give us a chance at capital appreciation despite their high dividend yield. Since they spun off nearly 9 years ago, they have been able to beat the S&P 500 19% annually versus the S&P 500 in that same time span, which returned just 16% annually. In their latest earnings report, AbbVie did raise their guidance for the full year, and that's always a good sign to see. Most analysts, whose job is to correctly predict the stock price, believe that AbbVie is a buy. Out of 13 analysts, 12 thought they were a buy, 1 thought they were a hold, and 0 thought they were a sell. Their consensus price target is around $127, giving them a nice 16% upside at the time of this video. But let me know what you think about AbbVie in the comments below. I make videos like this all the time, giving great insight on stocks that can make us rich, so make sure you're subscribed. Show some love to a small-time YouTuber by hitting that like button and commenting below. My videos can also always be found in podcast form on the Collect Cash podcast. As always, remember to buy, stash, and collect cash.